She could see him smiling again. "Yes," she answered. "Yes, they are. You'll get used to them. Just remember where the airspeed dial is. That's the most important. Speed through the air. That's what keeps you flying." Hania nodded and looked for the airspeed dial again. There it was, in the top left-hand corner, the needle pointing directly to 80. The instructor made another quick call to the control tower, so sudden and rapid that Hania didn't catch it. Then he glanced across at her once more. "So, how long have you been in England?" he asked. 6 months, Hania answered. The man nodded. "They did a good job at the language center," he said. "Your English is very impressive." "Thank you," Hania answered. "I did 10 years of English at school, so it wasn't starting from zero." "And you didn't fancy university?" the instructor asked. "Came straight here to England when you left school?" "Yes," Hania replied. "My parents tried to make me do a degree, but all I've ever wanted is to learn to fly and become a commercial pilot. In the end, my father said, well, if I don't have to pay for university, I suppose I can pay for a language school and some flying lessons. And as English is the language of aviation, England's the best place to learn to fly." Doug replied with a nod. "So, what will you do after this? You realize the commercial pilot's course is 10 times the cost of the private pilot's license you're doing with me." "Yes, I know," Hania answered. "But I'm working as an au pair for the family I live with here, and then when I go back to Switzerland, I'll get a job and give extra English classes in the evening. I'm hoping I can make plenty of money like that." Hania saw Doug glance across at her. For a moment a smile played around his lips again, as if an idea had occurred to him, but then he said very simply, "You are a very determined young lady, Hania." Hania looked back into the man's dark sunglasses, but couldn't see his eyes. "I am," she said quietly. "Yes, I am." Doug turned his attention back to the controls. Hania watched him push the control column forward very slowly, as the nose of the plane dropped. Suddenly, the horizon came into view through the windscreen. Hania felt their speed increasing rapidly, and when she looked at the airspeed dial, she saw it was already pointing to 120. A few moments later, Doug reached for the throttle, and the speed dropped back a little. "Right," he said. "We're flying straight and low. Now, you take control again and see if you can keep the plane steady like this." Very firmly, Hania took hold of the controls once more. For 2 or 3 seconds as she took over, the plane started bouncing around again. Gently, Doug called, "You don't need to hold the controls so tightly. Imagine you're with your boyfriend," he added with a little laugh. Hania gave a small frown, but concentrated on the control column. She relaxed her grip slightly. The plane seemed to respond. Slowly, she moved the control column around with tiny actions. It was strange. The plane seemed to fly itself somehow, as if it were an animal, a horse perhaps, which was just beginning to trust its rider. "That's better," Doug called. "That's the idea." Hania felt her confidence returning. Gradually, she increased the movements she made, watching and feeling how the plane responded. Slowly, a strange feeling came over her. She felt as though she wasn't sitting in the cockpit holding the control column, but instead had her arms stretched out, like a child pretending to have wings. And as she imagined this, seeing herself as the pilot of her dreams, the wings of the plane seemed to melt into her own. It felt like a miracle. She was flying all alone. All of a sudden, she glanced across the cockpit. Doug was staring at her and nodding his head very slowly. "Very good," he said. "I'm full of admiration."